This is where Jesus turns from using the word Father that he's used all through his ministry. My Father, my Father, my Father. Here he uses the words, my God, why have you forsaken me? And people wonder, what was that all about? Maybe you're wondering about, what did Jesus mean when he said those words? And Erwin, I'm going to give you the floor because this is your chapter and it's one of the best in the book.
John, this is one of the most remarkable sayings on the part of Jesus. And it does lead us into the Trinity. We must understand that God is one, he is a unity, but also the best way for us to explain it is that he is three persons. And we should not think that the Father and the Son were in opposition to one another, even though the Son is going to die for the sins of the world and satisfy the Father's need for justice. We have to recognize that the Trinity is working together. After all, God so loved the world that he gave. So we should not think that the Son made a reluctant Father willing to become loving. All three members of the Trinity are loving, but it is true that justice had to be satisfied, and that's what Jesus did when he died on the cross. Now, one other footnote, and that is this, that when we hear Jesus say this, it was actually a break in fellowship. It was not as if there was some kind of a break within the essence of the Trinity. The Trinity was still together. The Father still loved the Son, but during this period of time, fellowship was broken. And you have the Son suffering without the fellowship of the Father. And you and I have no way to possibly understand how excruciating that was. Because remember that on Jesus Christ was laid the sin of the world. Now it's very clear in Scripture that there was no sin within Jesus. He was sinless. But sin was laid on Jesus. He became sin for us, the one who knew no sin, that we might become the righteousness of God. Maybe I can put it this way. On the cross, Jesus got what he didn't deserve, namely our sin, and we got what we don't deserve, namely the gift of righteousness. And it was during those 3 hours of suffering that Jesus Christ was paying a debt that we can only try to understand. Now, there were 6 hours of suffering, but the first 3 hours he was suffering under the hands of men. And of course, during those times, the light was still shining, the sun was shining. But those 3 hours, when Jesus was suffering under the hands of God, those 3 hours are beyond our ability to properly explain.
And those 3 hours was when the darkness enveloped the land.
Exactly. And what we must recognize is that Jesus bore our hell. Now, if you can think of hell compressed into 3 hours, an eternity of hell compressed into 3 hours, that's what Jesus Christ endured. And now we talk about the darkness. The darkness, of course, is symbolic of judgment. What you have is one of the plagues in Egypt was a time of darkness. In fact, it says a darkness that could be felt. God was judging Egypt because of the way in which they were treating the Israelites. And here there is judgment. And where is the judgment? It is really being placed on Jesus. Because as I've emphasized in a previous program, God needed attributes that were resolved. Love wanted to redeem. Love could not redeem until justice was satisfied, and justice was being satisfied.